Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the Future of Film Showcase 2021, presented by CBC Gem. My name is Eric Bizzarri, and I'm the co-founder and artistic director of FOFS. We are here with Anya Chirkova, director of Flower Boy, featured in our 2021 program, now streaming on Gem. Anya, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate having you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. So
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I guess we don't have a lot of time, so I guess we can just jump in. I guess the first thing that really struck me, struck us as a team as well about Flower Boy was your visuals and how you sort of like the camera almost engaged as an observer of what was happening on screen, and you sort of allowed your environment and your actors to sort of dictate what was going on in frame. Do you want to just chat a little bit about that, about your visual treatment for the film?
sure, yeah. A lot of the credits for this I have to give to my cinematographer Jackie and Chan. He's definitely took probably the biggest role in creating the visual imagery of it. But during the pre-production, when I was looking for a cinematographer, I created like a visual map of the images that I want to follow. And the heavy inspiration was Eric Romer's movies that are like so saturated with summer and saturated with color. And this almost, I guess in nature becomes its own character, almost like the atmosphere of it. So I wanted to translate it into my visuals. But also I come from a fine art background. I graduated from an art school myself, so a lot of inspiration came from paintings and that kind of artistry. So looking for a cinematographer, I already had some sort of like a visual map, but definitely chatting with Jack and kind of giving him an idea of what I'm looking for. He 100% participated in supporting my vision, but also bringing his own, in a sense of camera angles and just in general how the camera feels, because I really wanted to have that, I guess, look of the old like postcard that you find in your drawer and you see it and it kind of gives you that sense, oh yeah, that was the good summer of my life, right? So he definitely included a lot of aspects through camera in order to achieve that look. So
Yeah, that's awesome, and also the coloring as well was just beautiful. And I like what you say about sort of like painting different portraits almost, or every frame feels like a photo. And so what you do within the frame and how you direct the actors as well, did you have in mind, so going in, did you have this sort of like with the numerous conversations that you had with Jack, who's a great cinematographer, by the way, I've worked with him in the past. Did you have conversations surrounding around how you wanted to sort of like frame specific subjects together? Because I noticed that sometimes, especially like on the beach, Mazir's character and Andrea's character, they're on the beach, and sometimes they're rarely photographed together, which I thought was really interesting. And it sort of said to me that like they were each sort of in their own heads a lot of the time. Would you agree with that, or find that like throughout the film, like it seems to be like a really strong character piece for Mazir specifically?
well, during the writing of the script, it was definitely something that I wanted to achieve a character piece. It was about him rather than him in, with a relationship with somebody else, or
Yeah.
his journey was mostly a character piece. But regarding the framing, it's something that actually we found on the spot during the shooting of it. It just felt
Yeah.
natural. I definitely did do storyboards prior and discuss the shots with Jack, and we kind of had a general idea of how we both want to see the scene play out.
Mhm.
But like you mentioned, particularly on the beach, it was kind of a tricky day to shoot actually. But yeah, it's something like that separation in visuals came on the day. It wasn't something that was premeditated.
Interesting. That's cool. And then I guess just the next thing that I notice, even in your previous work, there's like a correlation between the way that you examine younger characters who tend to be like in a sort of like in a transitional state in their lives, where a lot of your main characters, like they're sort of in this transitional stage where they're deciding how they want to move forward, and something that's sort of affecting that decision a lot of the times are like their relationships with authority figures and how they influence their decisions and their friends and romantic partners. Is this a style that you intended, and is this a style that like you want to continue sort of exploring in your future work?
I honestly think it comes almost subconsciously. These are the stories that I personally interested in, maybe for the reason that I'm myself an immigrant. I came here from Russia. So I find myself almost in a permanent transitional state, in a sense, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I find interest being in that state of mind, because I think that's where you are quick on your feet and quick to make decisions that will affect the rest of your life. So I think like I mentioned, subconsciously interested in those topics, and I think that particularly about Flower Boy, to me, it's like the summer before the big decisions, the big changes that are going to happen in your life. So it's almost like the day before the big move, the day before the breakup, or the day before you ask the guy or girl out, right? So I think the day before is more it's more interesting than the actual event itself, because it's full with so much anticipation and worry and anxiety, and this almost longing in a way for change, right? So yeah, I think like you mentioned, it's almost I'm attracted to these kind of topics subconsciously. So
Hmm. And do you think, and so when you're writing characters like that, because I'm also a filmmaker. I enjoy sort of revolving around characters like that as well. Do you take from personal experience in your life by way of like people? Like, are you also like from a filmmaker's point of view as a person? Are you someone who's also very observational about different people's sort of behaviors and everything, and you sort of like write that and cement that in your own work?
100%, 100%. Whenever I talk to people or interact or wherever I go, I'm an observer by nature, and I think that kind of works out with what I do. So, um, but sorry, I kind of lost the track of my thought. What was the question again?
Yeah, it's basically, well, I guess what I'm saying is like it's more or less like personal experience, right? And like writing from personal experience. I feel like that's where the most honest storytelling comes from. But I guess I guess the question more or less relied on like, is your writing heavily influenced on these small moments and relationships that you've also had?
Going back to it's like Flower Boy never happened to me. I'm not Nav, I'm not Sarah. It's nothing that happened in my life personally, but it's 100% true in a sense that it's just a combination of experiences from a lot of people, or something that I saw, something that my friends experienced. And going back, sorry, I'm like completely losing my thought. So yeah, and during the writing process, I just find that I'm not interested in the big agenda. I'm not interested in like big drama, or I don't know, some high concept stuff, even though I highly enjoy watching it. But I don't feel connected to big conflicts during the writing or creating process of it. I find little day-to-day drama is more relatable to me, and I think it's like how I think about teenagers. Everybody kind of dismisses their problems because it's day-to-day drama and they're going to grow up and it's not important. But for them, that's their life, that's their day, and that's what important for them right now, right? Whether the guy likes them, whether, I don't know, the shirt looks good or the haircut looks good, right? It's such trivial moments, but for them, that's what life is. And I think if you are able to show little problems in film and people still relate to it, to me personally, that's what interesting, that's what real movie is in my opinion. And all my favorite movies are about those, little dramas in our lives. It's not about big explosions and aliens, even though, like I said, I definitely enjoy watching something like it. So
Yeah. Yeah, and there's something very human as well, and just those little subtleties, and when you explore those like sometimes misconceptions, but like also very unique sort of like awkward tendencies of human behavior, I find is really important. But something I feel also aids your visuals really well is the score, because I think the score is something that I sort of wanted to chat more about as well, like especially through the end, and how like he's playing air hockey, and then it's just sort of like it cuts abruptly and we're in credits, right? Like the way that the score sort of not manipulated, but almost like aided the feelings of these characters was really profound, I found. And I guess I just wanted to chat with you more about like the musical treatment, and what your sort of references and inspirations were for that.
going into production, I started already looking into music pieces, or I guess what kind of feel I wanted. And the heavy inspiration was definitely lo-fi music. That's something that I wanted to achieve visually, plus on a score level, because it gives you that, I guess, almost chill vibe, in a sense that you can study for it, you can cry for it, you can enjoy your life for it. You know what I mean? It works with whatever you feeling at the moment, and it doesn't tell you how to feel. It doesn't tell you, oh, you need to cry here or you need to laugh here. It gives you that very chill atmosphere, and that's what I wanted my audience to feel. And regarding the ending, I guess that build up what I wanted to achieve. It feels like everything is great and everything is continuing and summer goes on, but September is inevitable and the decision is inevitable, and essentially that's what that cut represents. It's like everything is great up until you need to make a decision, going back to what I said earlier. So
Yeah, like September also as a young like as a teenager, and even like adolescence, and moving through life, September was always like a huge month, because it was almost like it felt like a restart. It felt like a refresh. Like this was the beginning of a new school year. Or this was the beginning of for me, I always loved sort of September as the beginning of fall shows and new programming. But I get why there's like an anxiety sort of like piece to that as well, because it's always like it feels like a rebirth. And I guess I just sort of on that note, I wanted to sort of chat about the environments in your film, because I felt your environments felt so specifically curated and chosen. Like they all played a specific role in highlighting like a characteristic of your characters, or evoking some sort of feeling or mood. So talk about that, like talk about your locations as well, like why laser tag specifically. Like I love laser tag, and I think it was like an incredible sort of the locations are very malleable, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of different boundaries and space that in those environments that you can utilize. So what was involved in that?
well, as you might have noticed, first of all, it's very visually different locations. So whenever Nav hangs out with Frank, who's an owner of a laser quest, obviously it's more of a neon-y, darker, right, atmosphere. When he's with Sarah, he's always outside. It's always this present summer feeling, always those almost like too hot summer days, right? So visually, it's just creates that difference between characters that he interacts with, Sarah and Frank. But another thing is in the choice of Laser Quest, well, the reason why I gravitated towards that location was honestly purely visually. I always was just fascinated how it looks like. And even though I never grew up with Laser Quest, I think I played it only here once in my entire life. It's not really a thing back home. So I was just fascinated by how visually it looks like. But when we were location scouting, Jack told me that his first like soul crushing job in high school was laser tag, and he told me all the stories about it. And I'm like, this is perfect. It felt so right. It just felt so personal almost, right? Even though it's not personal to me, it was personal to someone else.
Yeah.
So the location itself was being chosen just purely on the visual of it. but the aspect of relationship with the owner, relationship with co-workers, that first part-time summer job is still there. And it doesn't really matter where it is. It could be in the convenience store, it could be in the library. It's just visually, I thought that laser tag fit story the most in order to show that separation between, glowy outside and almost this neony inside. So
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And so speaking about, I guess, like Frank specifically, he's a great character, right? And he's so clearly someone that's like reflective of almost like a dream lost, sort of, right? Like he has this talent, he has this dream of, becoming almost like a rock star, like a musician, right? And it's sort of, from a main character's point of view, it's like he's looking at this person like, I don't want to become someone that just settles for something, right? And this whole film seems rooted in this anxiety to figure out what you want to do. So like by the ending, do you like, what does the ending mean in your eyes for Masri's character? Like, do you feel like there's an understanding that he's found his purpose? Like there is that voiceover of a conversation he's having with Andrea Pavlovich's character, where like, she's trying to tell him like, just don't end up staying where you are, right? Like try to move forward. But I think ultimately it comes to him to decide that. Like you can have the advice of all these people in your head to tell you what to do, but ultimately it's him. And so I'm wondering, like, what does the ending mean for him? Like, do you feel like by the end he's like sort of found his purpose and his understanding of where he needs to go?
I don't think so. I don't think he found his purpose, and I don't think he even knows what the decision is going to be.
Yeah.
And what I like about the ending, and actually I found it in the edit suite. I didn't really know how to end the movie going into going into the rough cut, and we found it with the footage that I had. But what I like about it, I think, is the answer will be in the eyes of a viewer, in a sense that if you're more of a cynical person by nature, I think it would be only fair to say that you think that no, that's Frank is almost like his future. That's who he's going to become. He's going to, kind of waste his youth and not move on. And in the eyes of a more, I guess, positive person, they will say that, oh no, like it's very clear that he's going to save up and gonna go, after this girl, but not necessarily for the girl, but maybe for the brighter future. So I think it all depends on who is watching the movie. I am personally a more positive person, so I want to believe that, he will come to terms and see what is better for him. But on the other hand, even visually, the voiceover tells you, oh, he's going to move on, he's going to see and go to see this girl, go to see you, move on with his life. But the image that we see is him enjoying, the simple pleasures with his co-worker and boss Frank. So it's almost like a contradiction, and it's up to you, what do you see in the ending, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that ambiguity. And I think that everybody can sort of take a different piece from it. So I guess moving forward, what are you working on? Or maybe you haven't thought that far yet, but what are you working on next? And does it sort of revolve around similar story elements?
I'm actually currently in pre-production for another short film, which is going to be like a capsule movie, pretty short, very contained, unfortunately due to COVID. But it's all working out. It's going to be like a dark comedy. Again, simple story about everyday problems. About like a family relationship between older and younger generation.
Yeah.
So that is going to be like something that's coming down in the nearest future within the next couple of months. But Mazir and I, because I think we worked on like a number of movies already. We're developing a feature film, and we're currently on a third draft of a script, and we just finalizing our pitch and going to see where can it be taken and how can it be made. So yeah, always working. But besides that, like I mentioned to you in the email, I'm currently working full time with union, just to get a sense of how bigger sets work and how their production, I guess, evolve and deal with their day-to-day problems. And what I find the most interesting in is obviously what I'm making is a very low budget movies, right? But working on these high budget Hollywood productions and seeing how they deal with their schedules, how they deal with their day-to-day, I guess, agenda, I see that it is exactly the same how I work. It's just blown up on steroids because obviously the budget is bigger. And I think that idea gives me a peace of mind in a sense that, I'm doing something right. I'm doing it pretty much exactly how they do, is just, and it comes naturally because that's the best way to approach certain things on set. And I guess that gives me peace of mind that I'm on the right path. So
Mhm, mhm. That's amazing. And actually, just one more question, because like your leads specifically, like Mazir and Andrea, are so well cast, and they have such a great chemistry between each other. And I was wondering, like, do you find yourself as more of an actor's director, like, working closely with your actors to sort of like observe and mold their performances, or do you allow them for a lot of improvisation and like sort of independent reflection? Like, what is your process and your way of working with your actors?
well, after meeting with Andrea, and I already had a locked script, finished version of it,
Yeah.
but I told her, I was like, "Tell me what you think. Read it. Let me know. Let's hang out. Let's meet up. Let's you meet Maz. Let's hang out all together, so I get to know you as a person, and essentially will shape Sarah around you." And the same thing I did with Maz, and the same thing I did with David, who plays Frank. Essentially, this whole part when he has this passion for drumming that kind of got lost with age, and he I guess renews it with age after meeting Nav, right? David is a good friend of mine. I actually called him, and because I read the part with having him in mind, and I called him and I kind of explained it to him, and but I wasn't sure exactly how to connect the story because I didn't have a musical aspect yet. And
Mhm.
he told me that, oh, he just picked up drums that he loved since childhood, and he's going with his buddy again to rehearse. And I was like, you know what, this is perfect. It fits exactly into the story, and that's how essentially all three storylines connected on like this artistry and passion to achieve something. While with Andrea and Maz, we met up multiple times and we rehearsed the script to the point that they were comfortable with lines, they were comfortable with another, they were comfortable with just physicality of it. And essentially that allowed them to free up and open the conversation for improvisation, because I think if I won't be able to just show up on set first thing in the morning, meet my actors there and then the first day of production and move on with the scene. I don't think maybe I'm just not experienced enough, but I don't think I'll be able to do it. I need to meet with them prior. I need to get to know them, who they are as people. Even I'm very open to shaping the script around them because I think it's a collaboration after all. It's not about how I think it should be. It's all about, oh, I have this idea. What do you think about it?
Right.
Right? And the same way I approach my relationship with Jack, and the same way I approach my relationship with my sound mixer. And I think personally that works for me best. It might not be the best approach for everybody, but I think film is collaboration, and I'm willing to embrace that word to the best of it. So
And it's definitely, yeah, and it's definitely a business of relationships as well. And so, it's, I think I wholeheartedly agree. I'm an actor's director myself as well, and so it's so important to sort of develop those relationships beforehand. It just makes the material that much stronger, and it makes it sing on screen. And you certainly achieved that, Anya. So congratulations. And again, thank you so much for being a part of the festival this year. I'm so excited to see, for everyone to see your film. I know it's had some success in the festival circuit already, and I know that you've been getting a lot of love for it. So I'm excited for our audience to experience it. Thank you.
no, thank you so much. I'm actually extremely excited to be a part of it. And yeah, thank you so much for including. And I'm actually can wait to see the rest of the lineup, because I think that maybe it's due to COVID, but a lot of the creatives I find push the boundaries in order to go past that idea of you're not allowed to do certain things. And I think that what sparks the creativity. So I'm very excited to see other contestants. So
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you, Anya. Appreciate your time.
no, thank you. Thanks for having me.